Great day of GAA action yesterday right around the country. We had the hurling semi-finals and 21 of the 24 teams in the top 3 divisions had something to play for in the football leagues. We'll get to James Horan in a minute, but first let's hear from the Meath manager, Andy McEntee.
Look at it. I suppose at this stage it's a relief as much as anything else. I mean, there's a certain amount of pressure building up all week. You just got to, we've done so much work. We just had to make sure we finished the job today. And I suppose after the first 10 minutes, people were starting to think, what's going on here? So it's really nice to get it across the line, and I think it's great for this group of players because they've had a good bit of hardship now and a good few hard luck stories over the last number of years. Not just under my tenure, but I think it's good. It's good for these players and it's good for the county. You can see what it means to people around here.
I just have to mention about Aiden O'Shea as well. Instrumental in 2 of those goals for Kevin McLaughlin. A fine performance for him today.
Yeah, I thought he did well. I thought Darren Cohn did very well as well on setting up some of the plays. So look, we're happy overall, and certainly we're making improvements in certain areas.
Is it a case now where you're in a final, go out and win it?
We honestly haven't talked about anything. We're going to try and we'll have a look at. We're boring like that. We'll have a look at what worked and what didn't, and we'll try and improve on some of the stuff, and we'll do that on Wednesday night, and then we'll do it try and do it at the weekend as well.
Yeah, that's James Horan, not giving too much away there. We've got Kieran and Shannon with us this morning to parse through the league campaigns. Kieran, we may as well start with the 2 teams in the league final. How was Mayo's league campaign? Because they came in for some pretty strong, if off-the-wall criticism early on in the campaign, and then they had a brilliant second half to the league campaign. They seem to be in really good stead at the moment.
They do, Gerald, because they've hit both boxes that you want in the league, where, just particularly where Mayo were going into the campaign or at the end of last campaign, they definitely needed to freshen up the squad. They needed to bring in and back younger players, and personified by Matthew Horan and Fionn McDonough. They needed that, because although other players were maybe tried in recent years, were they truly ever backed? Whereas this year they have been backed, and yet key players have been rested, and then they're rejuvenated. And Kevin McLaughlin's a classic example. I think I had a stat after the Kildare game that Kevin had only 1 day off since 2011. A dead rubber game against Derry, I think, in 2014. He wasn't starting, as was the norm, for the first couple of rounds of the league, and then he comes gradually, is brought back into the team, and he gets 2, nearly 3 goals yesterday. And played the ball through for Matthew Horan down in Tralee, so he's playing top football. So, you look at this Mayo team, they've been on the road since 2011, a lot of them, but, fresh blood, a new approach, and a key thing, between them and Dublin, you'd have to say, has been the bench, the finishers, the cavalry, and I think now what James has done is he's now got people vying for spots, and he's going to have a very strong, Mayo are going to have one of the strongest benches in the country coming off, in the last 25 minutes of matches, because of players have got game time. And so they've done that, and it was never an either or, which I sometimes tell people were looking at it. You can do that and get W's, and that's exactly what they've done. As you said, they actually started the league well. The first 3 games, when you look back, and it was a huge win up in Oma, had a lull in the middle. 2 teams would have a bit of history I'm sure would like to have got a win against them, but they weren't at full pace, and then finished off very well the last 2 weekends. So in a league final on merit, they haven't got it with 3 wins and a draw, 3 losses like they did in 2012. They've done it with 5 wins, so they're in a great position regardless of what happens next weekend.
You were making the point in your Irish Examiner column last week, Kieran, that the James Horan project this time around may not peak until next year. And the way I look at this Mayo team, with the age profile of some of the lads who've actually gone toe-to-toe with Dublin, I do wonder if this is the year, if this is their chance to win Sam Maguire.
Well, listen, absolutely. For some of them it will, but the project will go on. And, Dublin are going to have a considerable turnover, even more so, I would contend. So, I mean, what I'm saying is, I just think the gap between Dublin and the rest going into this year was so vast it might take a second season. I think Dublin are coming back a little bit more, although they're still number 1. And what I'm just saying is that we are obsessed with the 5 in a row, and obviously, look, the sooner this finishes, this gap finishes for Mayo themselves, the better. But I'm just saying that they're going to be in a very, very strong position in 2022, just as Kerry are. I don't see Dublin winning the 6 in a row, let's put it that way, or it's going to be something to pull off. But yeah, you're right. And look, last year was a gap year for both Kerry and particularly Mayo. Dublin, no, they didn't get the battle. I mean, we're making it seem because they're on the verge of a 5 in a row that they've had it all their own way. Both, Fitzmaurice is Kerry, and and Mayo under Horan and Rochford and Kennelly and 15 and Holmes. Like that run that they've had, they made sure that they brought war to Dublin. There was no war really for Dublin last year, but they're not going to get away with it this year, and they know that they know that Kerry and Mayo are coming, but what both squads have done is they've brought new players in, and Kerry, obviously Sean O'Shea has really been back, albeit he was introduced last year, but the likes of Darragh Moynihan, obviously there's a new management. And I know Kerry, I thought we've had it before with Kerry, they won the league in 2017, and after the Munster final, it looked like it was going to, the serious challengers to Dublin didn't materialise after they were obviously beaten by Mayo. Last year again, there was a fall off, they got it wrong for the Galway game. But I do think this year they are also primed, and, that Dublin are going to probably have to go through the two of them, and that will not be easy.
Can we talk a little bit about Aiden O'Shea and his position and his role in the team at the moment? Like, it seems as if he's going to be a midfielder for this year, and that's been decided fairly early on, and it seems like he's responding to that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very versatile footballer, and particularly with where the team is at the moment, with Tom Parsons and Shamie O'Shea, just on the way back, or obviously Tom still has a bit to go with the injury, but and obviously, he's back Matty Ruan, which was huge. I mean, I remember seeing him in the under-21 semi-final against Dublin, and there were 3 or 4 down at a crucial stage early in the second half, and he just turned the game with his leadership and at crucial points in particular. And James has backed him and has identified too that I heard DB on the radio before the game on your own channel there yesterday saying about how it's, for him, he had Liam McHale, a fellow clubmate, to help usher him in. And Aiden's been great for Matty Ruan. And Aiden, I do see probably playing a lot of his football. But look, he's adaptable. Mayo management are adaptable now. And, there'll be certain games where they might have to, he'll possibly play minutes at 11 because, he would have played some great football there for James before, particularly in 2014. And he can play a little inside if the occasion demands it. But, yeah, the majority of his football will probably be in midfield this season.
And what about Kerry? Where are they at the moment? Because certainly they were the winners of the first section of the league in terms of the popular imagination and public opinion, particularly given the array of stars who weren't yet fit or weren't back playing with the team. A little bit of the heat has come off that hype, and then lo and behold, out comes David Clifford, and he looks even better than he was last year.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, they won 6 of their 7 games. Okay, they lost it now, but that game it's very hard to go 7-0 in a league, and so they had one little respite against a very good team who were up for it, and travelled well to Kerry. So I think Kerry, look, both managements have been a little coy and about what they're about winning the league outright. The most important thing has been development and bringing through players, and obviously Kerry are trying to be, I suppose, more defensively solid, but yet they've really backed Sean O'Shea. It's interesting that they have played O'Shea all through. He wasn't rested for a game or two despite his Sigerson commitments, but they're really saying, look, you're our man. And again, look, traditionally, there's a record of in the 90s and maybe early 90s, whoever lost the league, it could do them some damage. That's not the case. If you look at in recent histories, the teams have responded and challenged, so both teams have, but they have a lot to gain for, it would be great for these Mayo players. People say there's only one thing they're missing. Well, there's kind of 2 things missing, and obviously, the Celtic Cross is the big one, but, you look at some of these players that they've had, and yet aren't automatic starters in this year. So, Lee Keegan wasn't involved yesterday, but, he's one of the best wing backs to ever play our game. And, even a league medal would be something that a player of such status should have in his CV. So it's a great opportunity for them. And look, Kerry would, now that they're up there back in Croke Park, they lost to Mayo the last time they were up there in 2017, and so that both teams will go for it on the day without being too bit of a setback if they come short. But particularly for Kerry, look, you're looking at Munster. Clare have done very well to stay in D2, but there's trouble against Kerry. Cork are obviously in difficulty, and Tip 2, both of them gone down. So, Kerry, this will be Kerry's biggest game before the Super 8. So, in terms of the calibre of opposition, so they'll look at it as a great opportunity, as will Mayo.
Yeah, Kerry have lost 3 consecutive games in all competitions in Croke Park now, so you do start to get concerns about like the Galway comparisons down through the years about George is like nodding, shaking his head at me. The question I wanted to ask you there, Kieran, about James Horan was, from your perspective, having worked in Mayo camps, is James Horan a different man to what he was first time he took over Mayo? Is his outlook on football a bit different?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, he's admitted as much. I think people maybe underestimate just how young, or the lack of mileage he nearly had coming in, but he was exactly what Mayo needed, because he brought his expertise from business and everything, and his energy, and revolutionised Mayo in terms of putting structure and high performance setup in the environment. But James did great work with Ballintubber, bringing them to their first county in their 100 years after being an intermediate club only a few years. But he hadn't a whole lot of experience, and I think now obviously the experience that he would have gained in 4 years, reflecting it and then observing the game from a remove, and while chipping away on the club scene. So I think now he's aware of all the various things that the possibilities within the game, and yet certain principles from his previous regime are there. They're playing with a higher tempo than they would have in previous years, and so I think they're in a very good position, because look, he's got renewed energy from being out, and so although a lot of those players are being there for the decade, they've got a renewed sense of hope, because look, for as much as they've had the disappointments in September, they're back for more, because they just love doing it, and they know that there's something there, and I do see that these two teams will be, but Galway had a setback yesterday. Tyrone are coming good. Those two teams will be in the mix too, but I think Mayo now are looking strong for both this year, and the great thing for them, it's not boom or bust, because you can see a 2020-21 team just getting that balance right, just as Gavin has done it. You win and develop, and that's I think Mayo have got that mix right, and so are Kerry.
A quick question for you before we talk some basketball. You live in Clare but are from Cork, and has that experience been, I'm sure?
Yeah, I mean, I've covered the last 2 of the last 3 league campaigns. I've covered that fixture, and they've been very telling. This is no fluke. That Clare have now beaten Cork the last 3 years. So, what was huge for Clare yesterday? You've had a dynamic in Munster, whereby obviously Kerry have won every Munster from 2013 on, but you've had since then, in recent years, where Clare have tended to beat Cork. Cork have tended to beat Tip, albeit 2016, the year Tip got to the All-Ireland semi-final, they beat Cork. And then Tip have tended to beat Clare, okay? And it looked like it was going to be that way in Thurles yesterday, but the fact that Clare came back and beat Tip, relegated them, and along with it, Cork, because of the head-to-head fixture. And then it's massive for Clare football to be yet again in Division 2, and it just underlines what a phenomenal job Colm Collins has done. For Cork, it's a big blow for the county. It was coming, you could say. What I would say is, midway through that league campaign, I did wonder, was the possibility of Ronan McCarthy's status under threat for even going into the championship. But I think, to be fair to him and the players, they've won 2 of their last 3 games, and 2 of them have been on the road in Tip, albeit they're not having the best campaign, but Donegal lost down there. And then to win up in Armagh, I know Armagh were the one team in the division that didn't have anything to play for yesterday, but it was still a good win. And I know there's going to be a lot of brickbats thrown at them, but that's because of a general malaise over the last 4 or 5 years. But actually, within this cycle of the team itself, they're actually on a bit of an upward trajectory of sorts, albeit, just by the way it's set up, Cork people would fear for how another Munster final at home would work out, with Kerry coming over the hill. But it wouldn't surprise me if Cork, won their last 12 game. Because we've had this. If you look at the history of the league, there's always been one team that's maybe been relegated, who's gone on to reach the last day. Last year we had it with Kildare. It wouldn't surprise me if that emerged. But by the same token, are Cork anywhere near? Like, we're talking there about league finals. Yeah. It used to be just a given Cork were in them. The way we've taken it for Dublin, getting to them, they're a long way off that. So yesterday just summed up the malaise that has been post 2012.
I do want to ask you about the basketball and the incredible end to the season. We've obviously been emotionally invested in it here, as Kieran has talked to us week after week about what's been going on. But the way that the season telescoped down to the final 3 games and then the final back-to-back games between Tralee and Marion. For anybody who missed this, on Saturday evening, Tralee played Marion in Dublin. The game goes to overtime, and Tralee needed to win both the games effectively to guarantee themselves the title, and they managed to dig out. I think Saturday night's kind of the
Saturday night was unreal. I still got my stamp from going into the gym in Belfield, and it's nearly like the GPO Munster 78 stuff, because it was incredible. I mean, I've seen Donaghy do this before, 2008 with the Tigers, as they were then. They were playing Leicester. There were a couple of Americans down, Bosman injured, etc. And against the rockstar Leicester team, they somehow won. And I remember Pat Price having the image of them down in UL of Donaghy with 40 seconds to go after a hustle play, puking over the advertising horde, and he said, "Talk about giving it your all, even breakfast." And Price is now coaching them with the Warriors, and yesterday eclipsed even that Limerick 08 or Limerick 14. What Kerry was what he's all about. I mean, because it's who he's brought with him. I mean, as I was writing for the paper this morning, St Brendan's were basically a pub team, a county league team in Kerry 3.5 years ago. Fergal and Darren O'Sullivan, two cousins. They play golf in the summer, a bit of basketball in the winter. They're playing just county league in Kerry. There's an intermediate cup set up, and they end up winning it. Donaghy comes back as part of his rehab from losing the 2015 final as captain for Kerry. And all of a sudden, the town is galvanised. They know that there's a basketball tradition in the town. Why don't we bring all the clubs together and form a team? Fair play to Basketball Ireland. They didn't put them in the first division, they put them right into the Super League. And so, and then, they're against Marion, these teams that are one of these teams that have been vying in national finals, as their norm for the last 4 or 5 years. And all of a sudden, they're going up against the Conor Meaney's, the Leighton Baines, and Mike Garrows, and Paul Dick, the best point guard in the country, is fouled out. Bogdan Bogdanovic, their Bosman, rides on the floor. Keith Jumper, their American, is fouled out, and they still pull it off. They still pull it off. Owen Quigley, a homegrown guy who would have won championships with Limerick, has been the X factor all year. But you have to say a lot of it has been just the sheer force of will and personality of Donaghy has galvanised them and brought it all together. But the thing was, he's lifted a whole town, and what the O'Sullivans there. These guys are in their late 20s. Fergal must be over 30 at this point. And like yesterday, he scored 22 points, taking, the likes of Barry Drum off the dribble, doing spin moves, reverse layups, as well as hitting threes in front of his home people. It's phenomenal. Like I grew up, obviously, in Cork in the 80s. I was queuing with my own children yesterday. And it was like being back in the Hall and Stadium back in the day, or it's like Ballina in the 90s. And I know some people, feeling early these comparisons, what Tralee have done though is they've built on that tradition. They've rejuvenated their own tradition in the town, within the county with Kerry in the 80s, and it's just magic, and fair play to them. They won their last 10 games, so, phenomenal story.
Yeah, incredible story. Great stuff, Kieran. Thanks a million for joining us this morning. Cheers.
Okay, sounds good.
Kieran Shannon, you can read his stuff in the Irish Examiner. You can follow him on Twitter as well.